What is going on YouTube? Welcome to TJ Mitchell Films, your one-stop shop for everything Jeep and off-road related content. And we've been getting a lot of new subscribers on the channel, and so most of you guys know me driving this, the Jeep Gladiator. But for what a lot of you guys don't know is that I originally started and got me into off-roading and the whole thing with this. And this is a 1988 Suzuki Samurai tin top. And today, what I'm going to be doing is telling you guys a story about the very first trail I ever ran in the Samurai. Before I get started on the story, guys, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button so you can support the channel. And also while you're there, hit the notification bell so you guys can stay up to date on when I post all my latest videos. I would greatly appreciate it. So this story starts back a couple of years ago. This was 2014, and my neighbor and good friend talked me into, he said, why don't you take your Samurai up on the Rubicon Trail? And I thought to myself, you know, I don't know about that. I don't really know anything about it. I hadn't really done any off-roading, to be honest. I'd been down in the riverbed, which the riverbed's here, it's just sandy. Hadn't really done any off-roading. So he had talked me into it, and the next logical step for that was to start building this up. This was completely bone stock, and we were gonna do the minimal build to get this thing to go through the Rubicon. And at the time I was at the local junior college learning how to weld. And so one of the first things I did was built these rock sliders that's on here. After that, we did the spring over axle lift. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Samurais, they come stock with the leaf springs underneath the axles. So we put new spring perches and shock mounts on, and we got the springs on top, which netted us about 5 inches of lift. And then we were able to run bigger tires for the trail. Then once it was lifted, we needed lower gearing so we could be able to actually crawl on the rocks. So we took the transfer case out, we installed a 6.5-to-1 transfer case gear set, put that back in. Then we did a rear locker so that way we could have more traction on the trail. The front diff on this is still open, we never locked it. After putting in all that time and work to do everything, the last thing we had to do was go get a new set of tires. So I was on my way home on the freeway from the tire store, just got this exact set, these tires are still on here, set of 31-inch BFG KM2s, and the Samurai just died. It was dead. Nothing, I had no power, nothing. Pulled over to the side of the road, I called, got a tow, obviously, got the Samurai home. Samurai's ready to go on the trip. This was about, I think we had a week until we were supposed to leave. So we sort of went into panic mode. We did some compression tests and found out motor was toast. Totally gone. Didn't have time to rebuild it. So my friend Quentin, who convinced us to go on the trail, he decides to call up Fred Williams. Yes, that Fred Williams. He's good friends with Fred Williams. Anyways, he just calls up Fred Williams and asks him, hey, do you know anywhere we can get a Samurai motor? We're kind of in need of one. And Fred says, yeah, I know of one in Arizona. That doesn't help us. So Fred was a dead end. Thanks Fred. But we were able to, after some searching, source one locally, but we'd heard that it doesn't run the best, but it does run, it smokes a lot. So we went, picked up that motor, pulled the one out of here. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, we got the motor in and wrapped up and everything ready to go. Thing smoked like a freight train. So that was 2 days. 2 days. You got that? Before we were supposed to leave for the Rubicon, having never done any off-roading, okay? Just put a brand new motor in that was used and smoking. But we're this far in, put this much work in, we already had the time off work, everything set up, so we're going, right? So with all of that going on, if that wasn't enough sign that you probably shouldn't make this trip, my only other vehicle I had at the time was a 1990 Chevy K5 Blazer. And I love that Blazer, we still have it, but that was our tow rig. So we put this thing on the flatbed and we towed with that Blazer, and we found out real quickly that that was not up to the test of towing, and we were overheating the whole way. Just to put this in perspective, this is a 6-hour drive for us from where we are to South Lake Tahoe. 6-hour drive with the truck constantly overheating, so we had to run the heater to compensate the whole entire time. Also keep in mind, I believe this was in July. So it was 100, 105 out on I-5 as we're driving. Windows down, towing this thing. We only almost got ran off the freeway twice by semis. I had to swerve to get this semi just merged over. Didn't even look. I had to swerve. The whole trailer with the Samurai was fishtailing behind us. I thought we were gonna die for sure. Somehow the Blazer gets us there. We make it there. We get to the trailhead and we air down and we're at the Gatekeeper. For those of you that aren't familiar, this is like the first section of the Rubicon that actually has rocks. It's supposed to, Gatekeeper is supposed to keep people who can't get through the initial section, which isn't that hard. It's supposed to keep them off of the trail. And I had never been off-road, like I said, so I was extremely inexperienced and I'd never done any sort of rock crawling ever. So we're going through Gatekeeper. This had stock leaf springs on it at the time. Now it has upgraded. It flexes pretty good, but at the time, spring over with stock leaf springs. For those of you that aren't familiar with Samurais, there's like no travel there at all. The leaf springs, they're like already negatively arced. They don't flex at all. So like the first time I went up on a rock, we were on 3 wheels, which keep in mind, we hadn't done, I had my wife with me. She was riding shotgun. She'd never been rock crawling. I'd never been rock crawling. We're with a group of people who were very experienced rock crawling, and they were just kind of go, 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 right? And so we were trying to keep up with them, yet I was pretty scared at times. Like first time I go up on a rock and all of a sudden I'm on 3 wheels like this. We learned pretty quickly that depending on what side we were going up on, like if I was going up on the driver's side, I would lean out as far as I could to feel like I wasn't gonna die. And we made it, somehow we made it through the Gatekeeper just fine. We actually, that little section, we gained a lot of experience just in that little section. And we were climbing up some slabs and we were following the CJ7 that was with us. And he kind of took this line that went up a pretty steep climb at a turn. And I'm just following him. I don't know any better. And I go up and seriously, we were on 3 wheels again and we had one tire that was like 3 feet off the ground. And I just kept going. I didn't know any better. But I got to a point where like, this doesn't feel right. So I pushed the clutch in, we rolled back down and they stopped and they're like, okay, you just almost rolled over. You were like an inch from rolling over. And I was like, really? It felt not good, but I didn't know it was that dire. So anyways, I had to learn that I couldn't just follow the Jeeps because I was in a Samurai that didn't flex. I'd never been off-road, couldn't take the same lines that everybody else was taking. And there was also minimal spotting going on because they were really experienced. It's not like they were leaving me behind, but they wanted to get to where we were going. And so I had to learn real quickly how to navigate through some fairly serious obstacles. And that first day we wheeled all the way into Buck Island and we camped there for a couple days. And I was so like antsy to like, I was nervous because I wanted to get through the trail in one piece. And we just were like camping for a couple days before we moved on to the next section of the trail. And I couldn't really enjoy myself because I was like, we got to get to the next, I got to get through this. And long story short, we wheeled through to the next section. We went to Rubicon Springs and we camped there for, I believe it was just one night. And same thing, obviously we gained a lot of experience from Buck Island to Rubicon Springs, so we were feeling a lot more comfortable. 3-wheeling became a thing where it's just, all right, we're coming up on 3 wheels, let's lean this way. Okay, coming up on 3 wheels, let's lean this way. That's just how you had to do it. Living the Samurai life. So after Rubicon Springs, we had one last challenge to get through, and that was Cadillac Hill. And I had seen some videos, heard some stories that Cadillac could be kind of sketchy. And for those of you that don't know, it's a steep, winding climb up where there was, a long time ago when the road was more passable, there was a Cadillac that rolled off the hill and it's still there down in the bushes. To this very day, it's still there. Coming up this climb, there's also water that runs down Cadillac Hill most of the time. And so it was a slick environment. There's a huge drop off on one side. And like I said, we're doing 3-wheeling on every single rock. okay? So it was pucker factor, like all the way up Cadillac Hill, just like butt cheeks just clenched, right? I'm gonna go, like, and if I'm gonna roll over, I'm gonna die. So, you know, but we made it all the way up to the top, and once we were up there, it was, everything was worth it. For those interested, I will have a link in the description here for that actual video from that first trip. It'll be down in the description or popping up somewhere here for you guys to check that out. The view at the top of Cadillac is absolutely breathtaking. It's gorgeous. The whole trail really is beautiful. If you've ever thought about doing the trail, or you haven't even heard of the Rubicon Trail for some reason, which I don't know how, the Jeep Rubicon's named after the trail. It's pretty popular, but you got to go on the Rubicon. It's the one trail. It's absolutely amazing. Everything was well worth it. And you know what the crazy part was? Is we never got stuck. We didn't get stuck that whole entire trip. We never had to get pulled out by anybody. We made it through. The bottom line of this story, guys, is that sometimes in life and in wheeling, off-roading, jeeping, whatever you want to call it, sometimes it feels like you shouldn't do something, and everything was pointing towards you shouldn't do this the whole entire way, right? But at the end of the day, I was so glad that I did it, and I forced myself to do it, because if I wouldn't have gone on that trail, I would not be where I was today, and I would have been, I mean, who knows? But that was my first off-road trail, and it ended up being a great experience and a great story now. Easier to look back on now. At the time, it was a little bit stressful. If you want to get out there and do off-roading, get out there. The main thing that I would advise is to always go, especially if you're going to do a trail like the Rubicon, is to go with an experienced group, because that was the bottom line. That was my peace of mind on that trail, was I was going with some very experienced people who I knew that no matter what happened, we could fix it and get off the trail. And that is the main thing. You do not want to be doing trails, especially if you're not experienced, by yourself, because that's when things happen. So yeah, that's my story of why I shouldn't have gone on the Rubicon, but why I did anyways, and why it was great that I did. So that's going to do it for this story time, guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button while you're there as well. It really helps my channel. I really appreciate it. If you can like the video, maybe share it on social media, leave a comment down below. All of that goes into the big YouTube algorithm that is suggesting my video, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're interested, I do have merch. There's a link down below in the description where you can find that. Also, I have an Amazon store that you can use at no additional cost to you. Link will be down below for that as well. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the channel further, I do have a Patreon account, and that link is down there as well. Ooh, wow, that was impressive. 31s, 38s, kind of have to balance it out. Little guy, big guy, AC, no AC, coil springs, leaf springs, winch, no winch yet, 4-door, 2-door. Bottom line, get out there and wheel.